Hello, today's question comes in from a reader on Emastercam. They're looking for a way to rough out this part doing a dynamic style toolpath that will respect the walls and hook inside of here, and they're wondering how to do that. They do have the multi-axis package, which is very helpful in this case, so I would attack it by using the pocketing toolpath. Now, before we can do that, we are going to have to do a little bit of setup, and I'll explain why as we do it along. The main thing is that the pocketing toolpath needs a floor to be normal to. So in that case, I'm going to make a circle out here to create a surface. So let's go to the right side view. I use the shortcut Alt-5. I'm going to make a new level, call it level 100, and pocketing geometry. All right, so I want to draw this circle on the flat down here, so I'm just going to set my Z level down to there. I clicked on the Z down here, and then clicked on the circle that I wanted right there. Let's go wireframe circle, and I want it to be smaller than the area, so I know that there's going to be stock removed to here, because I already looked at the lathe or the turning toolpaths to there. So I'm just going to put my floor down here. That'll bring the tip of the tool down to that side. So let's do that, and then I can go surfaces, and I could do it as a solid. It really wouldn't matter. So let's just do a solid extrude. Okay, and I'm just going to grab the arrow and snap it to the end there, so it's that long. Great. Now the other thing with pocketing is it's a lot like Opti toolpaths, like the Mastercam dynamic roughing toolpaths, and the fact that it really needs stock. So I'm going to turn off my pocketing geometry level for a moment, and I'm going to create a stock model so the toolpath can reference that. I'm going to go to milling, stock model, and I'm going to give it a name, 001, turns profile. And we're going to say that it's done after a lathe operation, I think number 4 or 5. Let's see what this looks like. We'll do 5. I'm not going to choose any operations. I'm just going to hit OK. And there we go. So now we've got a stock model that is accurate to the part. Now I can finally go and create my pocketing toolpath. So I'm going to go milling, multi-axis, and I'm going to choose the pocketing toolpath. Now to start with, I haven't gone through and edited this guy's tools or feeds or speeds or anything. I'm not going to bother with that. All I care about at this point is the toolpath itself. But one thing to note is that it is holder aware. So if you have a real holder or a real issue, make sure that's defined properly. But I'm going to skip that, go directly to my stock page. So I need to tell it that I want to look at a stock model, and I'm going to reference the stock model that I made. All right, cut pattern. So the way these things work is you need to point them to the machining geometry. So in that case, that's this entire part. I could come through here and click this, click that, try and create all these, but it doesn't matter. The stock only exists where I need to remove material. So I'm just going to triple click. There we go. Select that entire solid. All right, and then the floor geometry, I can turn on my level over here and just say I want to be pointing down to that. Great. Other than that, I'm just going to say, 5 thou, stock to lead, maybe 10 thou, whatever. Strategy, just leave it on roughing. Offsetting from the floor, dynamic toolpath, sure. Excuse me. I'm going to tell it that I only want one slice down here at the depth step. And my cut tolerance, I've got 10 thou up there, which means I could probably do maybe 2.5 thou cut tolerance to loosen it up. Maximum step over, of course, you would want to set this to a true, dynamic step over amount. I'm just going to leave it at 50 thou because good enough for me. We don't have to adjust anything on tool axis control or collision control. Again, depending on the length of your tools, you do have to pay attention to how much material it's leaving around the shoulder, the shank, and the holder. Make sure they're properly defined. I'm going to see what my defaults give me for linking, so I'm not going to mess with any of that stuff. So you know what, let's just hit green check and generate this toolpath. And we can go under View, Multi-Threading Manager. Oops, well, I didn't get it up in time, but it popped up on my other screen. All right, So let's take a look at this toolpath. So as you see, this thing's coming in. I'm just going to slow it down a little bit and hit play. There we go. And that's pretty much the motion that we wanted. We wanted that dynamic, you know, dynamic roughing motion around all four of these things. I'm just going to hit stop, jump to the very end. So, oops. Yep. Stop jumping around. Backplot. Sit, backplot, sit. Good backplot. All right. So, overall looks pretty good. But if you go and you investigate it close, you're going to notice that there's some material left, probably where you wouldn't expect it. So let's take a look at what's actually happening here. I'm going to go to my side view, Alt 5 again, the right plane. And you'll notice that you're leaving a decent bit of material here. Well, why is that? Because the way that this toolpath works, it's always pointing directly at the bottom normal of the surface. So whatever your floor is, that's where this toolpath is pointing in this case. The center middle of the tool here is pointing here, which means that it's not curving over where you would want it. So there's a couple of things you can do about that. I mean, the number one easiest thing to do is to just simply switch to a smaller tool if that's an option, and doesn't take too big of a feed rate hit. So for example, there's a 3/8 flat end mill. Let's just generate the toolpath with that. I'm not going to change anything here, but you get the idea. Right, so now if we look at that toolpath, same thing, let's just go over. You'll see that because the center of the tool is closer to the edge, it is a better fit. But, this still might not be good enough. Your best bet here would probably be to come in and do a couple of swarf passes. But let's see if we can get a slightly better toolpath. So the way to solve this, obviously the part of the problem is that we're using too large of a tool to really rough this out. I mean, it's fine for roughing, but the actual size of the radiuses over here are significantly smaller, right? So I think the best way to rough this out would be to go and make a stock model off of what we've done here, and then use that to drive a smaller toolpath. Or a smaller tool, I'm sorry. So I'm just going to go milling, stock model, and give this a name 002 after initial roughing, or we can call it after maybe 0.5 roughing. We're going to start with that original turned profile, and this time though I am going to choose my pocketing operation, and there we go. Let's go check and see what's happening. All right, my fans are spinning up, so this is probably going to take a moment, so I'm just going to pause it. Okay, so that just finished up, and you can see the material left. So what we need to do now is just copy this toolpath, copy paste, and we're going to point it out there. But real quick, let's just do a quick analyze. Let's see here, what's the size on these? So you can see these are 60 thou, so we'll have to come in with maybe a 1/16 cutter to just clear out the corners. So I'm just going to change the toolpath, jump me right to the stock page, which is handy because I need to point it to this stock instead. And I'm just going to change my tool. Again, I don't particularly care about feed, speeds, whatever, but I will dial back my step over because 50 thou step over on a 60 thou tool is a little aggressive. Maybe we could do like a 5 thou step over. The other thing I'm going to do is tell it to dial that back and leave maybe 2 thou on the walls. All right. And Alt-M will bring up our multi-threading manager. And oh, looks like it's already done. Okay, no sense in pausing the video. So let's take a look at how this thing's working. So we'll just play through here real quick. Sorry, thought I was a little closer there. There we go. So you see, this is going to act like a, it is a dynamic toolpath. So we're clearing out in the corners. There we go. Very nice. So wherever there's extra material, it is going to approach that in the appropriate fashion. So let me just stop this real quick, and I'm going to take a look, and you'll see that it's still not exactly cleaning up the edges, but it is leaving significantly less material. So I think the last thing to do then would just be to do a swarf toolpath on this. So how I do it is, the problem that we have is we need a wall surface because you want it to come in, cut around, and all the way back. But if you try and feed it this big floor back here, it's going to have trouble figuring out exactly what you mean. Now you could create curves, which would be fine. Or the other thing you could do is split the model, so that way each of these has its own wall segment. Now, either one's valid. I'm going to split the model. So, especially because I already have this chain that I made back when I did this solid right there. So I can come up here and do a model prep. I'm going to split solid face. I'm going to choose just this floor right here. And then I'm going to choose a wireframe entity to split it at, which is that wireframe that I made for that solid. Okay, and selection, and good. So let me turn this off. Yep, see, all that's good. Now, it is going to need to regenerate the pocketing toolpaths. So if you knew about it ahead of time, you could definitely do that up front. You could also, of course, make a copy of the geometry, whatever, but I'm just going to come in here and put a swarf milling toolpath on this. So again, you're going to have to do that with your 1/16 to even get close to that corner radius. You're obviously going to need a smaller tool yet to actually machine that because these guys are, in fact, tiny. But let's just see what we get generating that toolpath. Oops, all right, so it guessed incorrectly. You see it guessed that you wanted that. No problem. We'll just flip those chains. So come back into the parameters, and we're just going to say swap the top and bottom. There we go. So that'll get you a much closer finish. Obviously, you can tweak and change this, but I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.